Good morning, YouTube friends. This is Maggie Nana with My Nana's Needles. Today we are going to be looking at turning some woven cotton fabric into water resistant and stain resistant vinyl by using liquid vinyl. It will still maintain its cotton woven consistencies in the back and through the fibers, but the front part that will be coated will be stain resistant and water resistant. Spill something on it, wipe it right off. So let's get started. First thing I do is I like to use Heat and Bond liquid vinyl. I found that this tends to work the best, and when I put my stabilizer on the back of it, it doesn't wrinkle. It makes it nice and smooth, where some of the other brands have been known to wrinkle once you start ironing your stabilizer on the back. So first thing I do, this is an old jar, it's almost empty, but the first thing I always do is, before I open a brand new jar, is I go ahead and take my weight. And it is 9.7 ounces. I then go ahead and mark it on the top of my jar, because this says it's 8.68 ounces, but it doesn't include the weight of the jar and the lid. So I want to know exactly how much this weighs, so that as I use it, once I finish a project, I then weigh it again, indicate my new weight. And this can be wiped off. It's permanent marker, but it can be wiped off with an alcohol wipe or nail polish remover. I indicate my new weight. That tells me how much I've used. It also lets me know, that helps me figure out how much to charge to do this to a piece of fabric, because in selling bags, you've got to recoup your cost at least. So this is 9.7 ounces. I've already marked it. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn my scale off, and I'm gonna move it to the side. Now, once this jar is empty, the jars are all pretty much the same. So this jar is almost empty. Once it's empty, I will weigh it, and that will determine the weight of my jar, so I can figure out the cost per ounce of the product. I also, on the top of my jar, always indicate the temperature range that it says to use it, because on the directions it says medium heat. Medium heat doesn't tell you a whole lot. I have a Cricut heat press, so I want to know temperature wise what I need to use. So I know my heat needs to be between 230 and 300 degrees Fahrenheit. I tend to find, when I experimented with this, I found that 280 was the perfect temperature. So I go ahead and indicate that on here. But I do put the 230 to 300 so that I know if I need to change it for a different fabric. And then I'll put 280 as my target. Sometimes with some fabric, you may have to go a little higher or a little cooler, but I've got everything indicated. Now, when I get ready to use it, I will just go ahead and open it up and get started. I'm gonna finish up this one first. And what I did with my fabric to prep it, you have to wash it in a washing machine, hot water, just hot water, no detergent, no softener. Once it's washed in the hottest water you can get it in, which will help shrink the fibers together, I toss it in the dryer. No fabric softener, no fabric sheets, no dryer sheets. Just toss it in the dryer on the highest heat I've got. Once it's dry, I take it out of the dryer. I go ahead and cut my pieces based on the size I'll need for that project. And then I iron it out so I have all the wrinkles out. And then I grab my little handy dandy, they're just foam paintbrushes. I have several sizes. I should pick them up at Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's. Grab them off Amazon, wherever. If I've got an order going in for Amazon, I'll just go ahead and add it to my order if I need more. I also keep a cup labeled liquid vinyl rinse cup so that I don't accidentally use it for anything else. And I use a cup of water, and I'll rinse out my brushes in between applications. This is a multi-step process. So I have to start this with the liquid vinyl, and I just go ahead and scoop some of it up, and it's a gel. As you can see, it's just a gel. And I don't normally use that much, but it's okay. I just put it down and I just brush it across, and I get it all the way to the edges. And I just make a nice, let me turn this light on, then you can see it a little bit better. Make a nice thin layer. And I just keep going across the fabric until I have it all coated. The first coat is when it takes up the most of this liquid vinyl stuff. You can do, to make it water resistant and stain resistant, you can probably do 2 coats. I find it works better with 3. So that's what I tend to do, is 3 coats of the liquid vinyl. And you just keep painting this until it's all coated, and you can kind of see the glare, so you can see where the coating is. That's why I do 3 coats. So if I miss a little section on the first coat and I get it the second coat, hit it the third coat, then I know everything's covered at least twice, even if I miss a little section. And I like to do this for bags that are gonna be used for messy things like makeup bags, or like waterproofing bags for diaper bags, for, you know, wet, dirty clothes, just to give it a little extra, because some of these fabrics are so nice. And I would love to do something I didn't have to do this with, but when you get to waterproof fabrics and waterproof canvases, sometimes they're just too thick for the bag you want to make, or they don't have the design you want. Like, this design was chosen for someone who absolutely adores birds, is actually a rescuer for a rehab, and that includes birds. And I saw a friend of mine in New Zealand actually had this fabric that she had made a purse with, and at the time I didn't know she was in New Zealand, because, you know, we're all over, when we're on the internet, we interact with people all over the world. And I asked where she had gotten her fabric, and she told me, and I said I hadn't heard of that shop, and she said, I'm in New Zealand. And I said, oh, okay, well, that takes care of that. And she said, why, what do you need? And I said, well, I told her about the special person who loves birds in my life, and how I thought this would be an amazing lining for a makeup bag. And she said, well, let me see what I can do. How much would you need? And I told her, I said, you know, no more than a yard at the most. So the next thing I know, she emails me, and she was like, send me your address. I'm gonna mail it to you. Didn't charge me anything, didn't ask for anything, just as sweet as could be. Said, let me mail it to you. So she mailed it to me. And in the process, I felt, you know, hey, is there something here in the United States that you can't get in New Zealand that I can send to you? So we set up a thing. She wanted some vinyl from a company that does ship internationally, but it was sold out. The one she wanted was sold out. They didn't have it anymore. And I said, I know this. I've been working with this company for a while. Let me call them and see. Maybe they have some on the shelf, or they have some, you know, that maybe hasn't been bought, what have you. Let me just see what I can do. So I contacted them, and the owner, My Punk Broidery, Amy, is amazing. I messaged her and I was like, hey, I need this stuff for a friend in New Zealand. Do you happen to have any rolls that you've held back, or that no one's claimed? And she contacted me back within less than 24 hours. And she was like, yeah, I have a couple of rolls. And I was like, great, can I order them? So she told me what to do and how to get them. And I ordered them from her, and she sent them to me. And then I turned around and sent the roll to my friend in New Zealand, and just let her know, hey, this is on the way. And she was so happy when she got it. And she's already made a bag out of it, and it's been great. I've just been so busy, I haven't had a chance to do this. All right, so my first coat is on, and I'm gonna let this has gotta dry about 30 to 45 minutes. And then when it's done, we heat press it for 45 seconds. And I'll show you how to heat press it after it's dry. Back in a minute. Okay, our fabric has now had a chance to dry with the liquid vinyl. I've got my heat press set at 280 for 45 seconds. I have lined my ironing table, which is a table I created. It's got a a wool heating pad underneath and then canvas over top. I have put a Teflon sheet down on top of it just in case anything seeps through. And because I'm working with this stuff and it may be a couple spots that are still a little sticky, I always put down just regular kitchen parchment paper. Now I'm gonna take my fabric that is dry and I'm gonna lay it down on the parchment paper, and then I'll put another piece of parchment paper over top of it. Now, I can just go ahead and put my heat press right on top of that, and there's no problem. I just like to be extra careful just in case the paper slips. I don't want the liquid vinyl sticking to the bottom of my heat press. So then I grab another Teflon heating sheet and I line this up, set it down, hit my start, wait 45 seconds. And this is the fun part, just waiting for the 45 seconds. And I'm gonna have to overlap it because there's parts here at the bottom that have not been covered by the heat press. So my heat press will overlap and heat one area a little longer than 45 seconds, but that's okay. That's why I go a little lower in temp. And while we're waiting, 45 minutes has elapsed during the drying time. I was fixing my granddaughter's lunch. All right, so that's good. I just double checked to see where I was. Slide this down, hit it for 45 seconds more. Once that 45 seconds is up, then I will remove it from this area, put my heat press back in its holder, and I'll go ahead and shut it off because now I'm gonna do another coat of the Heat and Bond liquid vinyl, and that'll have to dry for another 45 minutes. The first coat you can usually dry for like 30 minutes, but like I said, 45 elapsed because I was making lunch. And whenever you close up your Heat and Bond liquid vinyl after each use, always take a wet paper towel, and I'm gonna go ahead and shut that off. Move this. Hot, 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 hot. Set it back over on my table. Move my ironing board out of the way and flip you guys around. Sorry for that. Make sure we're back in my area. I'm opening a new jar because I used up the last jar with the first coat. So I'm just making sure to get all the aluminum and stuff off that seals it for shipping. And when it comes shipped, I usually buy this from Amazon, and I'll put a link at the bottom. But when it's shipped to me, it's also wrapped in plastic. All right, so because this is a full jar, as you can see, I'm just gonna dab the top, get some on both sides, and I'll set it right there. Let's see if I can move it back so it's in the camera. There we go. And then I'm just gonna start at the top and brush away. It's just easier. And I get as much as I need. And now when I'm finished with the last two coats of this, I will reweigh my jar and adjust the weights so that I know how much is left, and then I can figure out how much it is per ounce and how many ounces I use per project. Make sure I get all the edges. And I find that it's easier to do this if you cut your pattern pieces down to close to the size you need, not exactly the size, but close to the size, because it gets a little tiresome having a big area spread out and trying to make sure that you've spread all the liquid vinyl before it starts to dry, because you kind of want it to overlap and smooth out any strokes. And by using the foam brush, you don't really get any brush strokes. And now that I'm near the bottom, and it's okay if you get it on your hands, it just washes right off. The heat sealing it is what makes it permanent. It is water soluble as long as it is wet. So as soon as I'm done, I will wash my brushes and I will wash my hands and get it all off. I always make sure I get these bottom edges. Sorry, I think I slipped out of the thing. I always make sure I get these bottom edges because it will also stop the fraying. So once I get done and this is all heat sealed and dried, I'll trim off these frayed edges at the bottom. And I make sure that I got the tippy top and the edges really good, because that, like I said, stops the fraying. And I just double check, and I keep forgetting my light. Sorry about that if the view is bad. I just double check to make sure, and having this light is great because it helps me to see if I missed anything, because I can see a light glare. I don't think I missed anything, but this center, I always wanna, there we go. All right, so I will rub my extra back into the jar. And I will get a paper towel and wipe the edges of my jar just so that the lid doesn't seal to itself. I will let this dry for 30 to 45 minutes and I'll be back to heat seal the second coat and apply the third. Okay, well, we have dried our second layer of Heat and Bond liquid vinyl, and I've gone ahead and heat pressed it. So the second layer dried for 45 minutes and then I heat pressed it for 45 seconds. So now I'm doing my third and final layer, which again will take 45 minutes to dry. And then I'll heat press it and reveal the final look. So we're just gonna go ahead and apply our third layer. And when these brushes get old, used, whatever, they don't spread as well anymore, I just toss them in the trash and grab a new one. They're fairly cheap. You can buy, I think, a bag of them in different sizes for like $3 or $4. And as you see, it gets a little easier each time you put it on. I would not recommend doing more than 3 layers. And once this is finished and I've sealed it one last time, then I will turn the heat up on my heat press and I will add my stabilizer to the back of it to make it stabilized enough that it'll stand up for the use. This will be the back panel of a makeup case. So this is going to be where the lid will fold over. It's not going to be quite this big, but the lid will fold over. So you want it to be kind of sturdy. So that it doesn't tip over, it doesn't rip off. But like I said, this is the third coat, last coat. Once this is on and I've spread it all out and it's dried, I'll do one last heat press and I will then be ready to add stabilizer to start creating the bag. And one thing when you, this has got a, just so you have a little heads up, it's got a funny smell to it when it heats, almost like shrimp. So I'm not sure exactly what all is used in this. I don't think there's any seafood in it. I didn't see any potential seafood allergy or any allergy warnings on it. I am not allergic to seafood, but I haven't had any reaction to it, and I've been using this for a while, and I've had it all over my hands, as you can see, with no issues. Like I said, I just wash it off. And when you're washing out your stuff, I would not advise washing it in your sink, just because it is liquid vinyl. It washes away fairly easily, but it's going down into your pipes. So I just personally would not want to take the chance that it would clog up my pipes. So I tend to rinse them off in my rinse cup. I then pour my rinse cup outside, and then I use my garden hose to finish washing out the brushes when I'm completely finished, just so that this stuff is not going down my drains and potentially clogging my drains. So third coat is on. I'll wait for this to dry, and then I will heat press it one last time, and I will show you the final product, and I will demonstrate its water resistance and stain resistant. See you in a minute. All right, guys, we're back. We have had 3 coats of HeatBond liquid vinyl coated onto this piece of cotton woven cloth. We are going to now test our water resistant and our stain resistant. Okay, water resistant. See, it bubbled right up, it beaded right up. I just dab it up with a paper towel, flip it over, and it is not wet on the back. Now we're gonna try our stain resistant. Oh no. This stuff stains everything. Wiped right off. To make sure it wiped right off, grab a baby wipe, wipe it right off. Nothing there. Look how clean, crisp. The white's still white. There's no pink. Nothing on the back. So this is what I use to do insides of places that are gonna get wet. Makeup bags, wet bags for diaper bags, anything. Or if I want to do a piece of cotton woven cloth for the outside of a bag and I want to make sure that it's protected, I'll also do 3 coats of HeatBond liquid vinyl. I hope everyone has enjoyed this video. I will post the link for the HeatBond liquid vinyl at the bottom, as well as the link for the paintbrushes. And thank you so much. If you've enjoyed this video and you'd like to see more, click like and subscribe. Thanks. Have a good day.